for June 10th, 2022. I've been asked to chair this meeting because both our chair and our vice chair are away and unable to chair the meeting. And as the only non-proxy, longest acting member who has sat in this chair and was actually a chair of another committee here, I am going to be chairing today. And we will go around and introduce ourselves. And why don't you start, Paul? And who you are a proxy for?
Paul Satterley, Monroe County Highway Engineer, proxy for Lisa Ridge.
Andrew Seabour, City Engineer, serving proxy for Mayor Hamilton.
Sarah Reiterband, Chair of the CAC.
Doug Horn, Bloomington Public Transit Corporation Board of Directors.
Kate Wiltz, Monroe County Council.
Chris Woolman, NDOT.
Hey, Nickel, with the City of Bloomington Public Works Department, proxy for Director Adam Wason.
Jason Bannock, Indiana University.
And can we have our virtuals?
Julie Thomas, Monroe County Commissioner.
And is Ms. Thomas the only virtual we have?
No, Margaret is here.
I'm trying to unmute myself. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Margaret Clements, Monroe County Plan Commission.
I will let the two virtuals know that I cannot see either one of you, and so it'll be hard for me necessarily to address any questions you have. I will rely on staff to recognize if your hand is up, if you have something to say. We've just had another member come in who will introduce herself when she sits down. But if you have something and someone is not speaking and I've asked for comments, please just chime in if you're not being recognized.
And I will be sure to monitor hands being raised.
Great, I appreciate that. Thank you. Okay, so we've all, would you please introduce yourself, Jillian?
Hello, Jillian Kinsey, representative from the Bloomington Plan Commission.
Thank you. Okay, so we have an agenda before us. Do I hear a motion to approve the agenda?
I move approval of the agenda.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda as written. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, would you please call the roll?
Satterley.
Yes.
Seabour.
Yes.
Reiterband.
Yes?
Horn.
Yes.
Wiltz.
Yes.
Wallman.
Yes.
Nickel. Yes.
Bannock. Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Clements.
Yes.
Kinsey.
Yes.
Thank you. That is 11-0.
Thank you. We've approved the agenda and we'll move on to the minutes from our May 13th meeting. Are there any additions or corrections? Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes?
I move approval of the May 13th, 2022 meeting minutes.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes from the May 13th meeting. Are there any comments, questions? Seeing none and hearing none, would you please call the roll?
Seabour.
Yes.
Reiterband.
Yes.
Horn.
Yes.
Wiltz.
Yes.
Wallman.
Yes.
Nickel. Yes. Bannock.
Yes.
Thomas.
Yes.
Clements.
Yes.
Kinsey.
Yes.
Satterley.
Abstain, I wasn't here.
I think that looks like 10-0-1.
Okay, we have approved the minutes from the May 13th meeting. Communications from the chair. Neither the chair nor the vice chair are here, but I will tell you that this meeting is going to be according to the agenda. We will move through the agenda without any backbiting, without any disagreements on personal matters. Those don't belong in this meeting. We are here to coordinate the MPO work. And I would suggest that we do that in as civilized a fashion as possible, in as expedient a fashion. We are here to make grants as delineated by our federal government 60 years ago. So happy birthday to the transportation agreement made in 1962 that created this MPO. We'll move on to reports from the officers and/or committees. TAC report.
Just a quick update. We struggled with in-person attendance at this last meeting. We had enough people virtually, but not enough in person, so we did not have a quorum to be able to vote, but we did provide some updates and discuss some non-agenda items that we were able to go over, and so we're looking forward to reconvening here soon.
Thank you. CAC did meet. We had sufficient numbers of bodies, and we elected a new vice chair, John Kennedy. We also approved or suggested approval to the policy committee for the the amendment to our tip that we will be looking at today. We weren't able to do that previously in our last meeting because we didn't have sufficient bodies. So we'll be looking at that later. Now we'll move on to reports from the MPO staff.
The only item we have to report is the Indiana Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Development Plan, or Deployment Plan, I'm sorry. Included in the packet was a survey, a public survey completed by the Department of Transportation, even though this ended at the end of the last month. We wanted to let you know the Department of Transportation began development of the Indiana Infrastructure Plan in March. They have a draft which is due to be submitted by August 1st, and then they must have a plan approval by September 30th of this calendar year. We are working in concert with the Office of Energy Development, which is housed in the Department of Commerce. It's one of those things that you have to look for. In the Office of Energy Development, there's no reference whatsoever to the Indiana Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Deployment Plan. So all the information that you have, and the link that I have there in the agenda, is Indiana Department of Transportation information. Now, additional to that, the Indiana Department of Transportation will hold a series of district-wide meetings throughout the state, beginning, well, they began this month and then carrying through the last month. The last meeting, I'm sorry, is on June 14th for the Seymour District, and that is at June 14th at 3 o'clock to 5 o'clock, and that's a virtual meeting. And you can register for that online if you wish to participate. They're attempting to, well, the guidance here is develop a plan, and the hard part is how do you develop a plan for electric vehicles, which barely exist in the infrastructure to do that. So the plan must include a state energy office coordination, public engagement, visions and goals, contracting, existing and future condition analysis, implementation, civil rights equity considerations, cybersecurity, and a program evaluation. My guess is that this plan will constitute what I would call a high-level plan, and then look forward to a version 2.0 coming down the line somewhere around 2 years from now when it becomes more mature. And that's all I have, unless there are any questions. I'm sorry.
Are there any questions from the committee members? I know I have one question is, it appears that this was dated on the 13th and that all survey were supposed to be in by the 27th of May, which gave a 2-week window. I wonder how anybody knew about this public survey out here in the public. I suspect, I don't know that we have more Tesla vehicles in this area than anywhere else in the state, but I suspect that none of the Tesla owners in this area knew anything about this survey. And I think that that's kind of problematic. I would hope that they might have used BMV data to at least alert people with electric vehicles and agencies that might be utilizing electric vehicles to invite them to do this survey. It seems a remiss on the part of INDOT in doing this. And that's more of a comment than a question, but I'm a little distressed.
It was a problematic issue for us because we received notice of the survey after the policy committee meeting of last month. So it gave us only a 2-week window, actually a little shorter than 2-week window. And we gave that to the Citizens Advisory Committee and the Technical Advisory Committee. We ourselves filled it out, encouraged the entire staff to fill it out too, in engineering and planning and transportation. But yeah, I mean, the notice was short. I agree with you. I wish we would have known, had a month or a 2-month survey comment, but apparently that's in line with their deadline on developing a plan within the time frame that they have.
Is there any way that we can get the INDOT divisions, like Seymour District, to find out from BMV who has electric vehicles so that they can specifically be invited to this district meeting? It seems crazy to me that people won't know, and they're the ones who are utilizing the vehicles who are most interested in how we're going to create this infrastructure to support them.
Let me ask, because this is being headed up by the central office, and I don't even know who in the central office is considering, who's on the team, so to speak. And I don't know if this is a consultant-driven process. I assume it is. But let me do some exploratory work on that, and I'll get back with you on all of that, or get back with the entire committee on it.
Thank you.
Sure.
Anyone else on the policy committee want to say anything? Yeah, go for it.
I just had a clarifying question when I've clicked on the link in the packet, and the Southern Indiana meeting on June 14th looks like it's not a virtual meeting. It actually is an in-person meeting. Am I reading that correctly?
Yeah, that's correct. It's an in-person meeting.
Okay.
So they limited it to a maximum of 50 people at the in-person meeting, but I anticipated that question coming up because I had the same question. Why was it limited to 50? I think it's just for space considerations, but I've been told by our communications department that we will be sharing the slide decks and the Q&A documents from all the meetings with the public, and then we'll also hold additional virtual meetings for those who couldn't make it in person.
Great, thank you.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you for pointing out my mistake.
Okay. Any other reports from staff?
Yes. And just briefly, I will bring this up because it has been asked at a past policy committee meeting to show the top 50 crash locations, both for the city of Bloomington and for Monroe County. So I just wanted to briefly show this. I know it's not on the agenda, but it has been asked for, and we want to make sure that people on the committee know that this information is available for them and for the public as well. Monroe County does not have 50 crashes, or I should say 50 crash locations that are over 5 crashes
per intersection since 2013. And the city of Bloomington, here are the top 50. So just to let you all know that this is available, and if you would like it, I would be happy to share it.
Would you be willing to have that along with our total MPO crash data available and put it on the agenda for our August meeting?
Yes, and this is already going to be on the agenda for the CAC and the TAC coming up later this month.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move on. Old business?
Okay, for old business, we have a transportation improvement program amendment for both FY 2020 to 2024 and fiscal year 22 to 26. It is a Monroe County project. It is DES number 2101712, and it is the Dillman Road Bridge number 83, 3,000 feet west of State Route 37. And just for those listening who don't know where this is, I'd be happy to show where this location is and show why it needs some improvement. So let me just zoom in here to Dillman Road. It is between State Route 37 and the Limestone Greenway. So it is this graded bridge structure here, kind of at a skew to go over the creek. And well, let me see. I'll just go back to the packet and continue to go through this, and then I'll let the project sponsor mention anything in addition. So this is using off-system bridge funds, and this is exempt from the Complete Streets policy because of that. Last month, when we presented this project, the funds were in fiscal year 2022. Well, the funds now are going to be in fiscal years 23 and 24. For fiscal year 23, preliminary engineering, the federal amount for that will be $423,200 with a local match of $105,800. And in fiscal year 24, for right-of-way, we have a $128,000 with a local match of $32,000. All of the other funding for this project will be in outlying years. So if the project sponsor would like to add anything in addition, I think we'd all be happy to hear anything more if there is anything.
This bridge is a single-lane pony truss, which means it doesn't have a top to it, no cross members up above, but it was built in, I think, 1910. It has currently a 9-ton load limit, and of course it's isn't able to handle trucks, buses, or anything very large. The single lane geometry and the curves leading up to it are substandard, and we're also looking at the future trail connections, and this the replacement bridge will span Clear Creek a little bit better than the existing structure. I think the last time it flooded, that bridge was 4 feet underwater. So the newer structure will be lifted up to where it won't flood as often. And we will have a bicycle pedestrian component added to this, where we'll have a 10-foot multi-use path added to the south side of the bridge, and that'll be used to make connections to the Limestone Greenway, and then also future connection to the old CSX Monon corridor, where we hope to build a trail there as well and make a loop in the south side of the county. So that'll provide that meet the complete streets, most of the requirements for complete streets anyway. So And the bridge will look similar to what we did on Gordon Pike with the separated pedestrian bicycle facility separated by a barrier rail from the traffic, the main vehicle traffic. So if you have a chance to take a look at that bridge, it'll be similar to that.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Paul. I'm wondering, are you going to do something about the curve when you're doing this as well? Are you taking, you mentioned the sight lines going into the bridge. Is that going to be straightened out in any way? Or is that possible?
The Dillman Road alignment will be straightened out. The bridge will actually be skewed to the Clear Creek crossing, but the span will also be a lot longer. It'll probably run between the hill near that home or the sheriff's substation and Dillman Lane. That'll be probably the approximate length of the bridge, so it'll be considerably longer than what's there now.
Thank you, sounds great. Anyone else on the committee have any questions or comments on this project?
I do, if I could. This is Julie. I know Ms. Ridge talked about the possibility of creating some sort of temporary way for bicyclists to safely cross that bridge. Do you know if that's still in the works?
I know signs have been added advising of the metal deck on that bridge. We did investigate some ideas in terms of what could be done to cover the bridge, but nothing's been determined there. Oh, and one footnote, the existing bridge we hope to use on the Limestone Greenway Trail farther south where we've got a creek crossing there, so that the bridge won't be destroyed. We intend to reuse that for the pedestrian trail.
Love recycling. Any other questions or comments from any of the committee members?
It's a brief comment that we discussed this at the TAC meeting, and obviously we didn't have a quorum, so we couldn't have a vote, but we were very supportive of this project, and especially the bicycle and pedestrian component that was added for the trail connection. So we certainly had a chance to look at it at our meeting and support it.
CAC is really enthusiastic as well, since we have people who've tried bicycling it and are not happy now. So we're quite excited about this great project.
That's just a question, and I don't know if you know Paul or somebody, but the construction timeframe, I'm seeing the application has the design and right-of-way, but do you have a sense on when it might be built?
I think it's showing 2026, possibly. Okay. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
It's that illustrative year thing that...
I mean, if funds are available sooner, we'd definitely be ready to use them. But yeah, the design is getting underway. We just have approved the contract, or the contract's been reviewed and for approval, so it'll be starting up real soon.
Great, thank you.
Okay, if there's no further comments from the committee, do I hear a motion for approval of this TIP amendment?
I move approval of the fiscal year 2020 to 2024 TIP and the fiscal year 2022 to 2026 TIP to incorporate these changes for the Dillman Road Bridge number 83.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there anyone from the public who would care to speak to this amendment? Seeing none, we'll move back to the committee. Any further questions, comments? Hearing and seeing none, can we please call the roll?
Ryderband,
Yes.
Horn,
Yes.
Wiltz,
Yes.
Wallman,
Yes.
Nickel,
Yes.
Bannock. Thomas,
Yes.
Clements,
Yes.
Kinsey,
Yes.
Satterley,
Yes.
Seabour.
Yes.
Thank you. That is 11-0.
Passes overwhelmingly. That's very nice. We'll move on to new business then.
All right, so our new business, is an audit of our current Bloomington, Monroe County Metropolitan Planning Organization Complete Streets Policy. We're calling it the update of 2022, and as you know, we are, as an MPO, scheduled annually to look at our Complete Streets Policy. Now, this is going to be a little bit of a larger update than what we have done in previous years, as as we have some new plans and some new planning emphasis areas from the federal government. So some of those newer plans that we have, such as our Transportation Improvement Program, our Unified Planning Work Program that was just passed at our last meeting, as well as the Coordinated Human Services Transportation Plan. So what we did was we looked at our current Complete Streets Policy and did an audit of it based on the best practices from Smart Growth America, which our current plan is already based off of, in case there's a question about that, but also an audit of our current plans where it mentions the Complete Streets policy explicitly, but also other planning elements within each of those plans. And so this is a matrix of how each of these plans relates to the best practices from Smart Growth America currently. And those are having a vision and intent, ensuring that diverse users are prioritized, having a commitment in all projects and all phases, making sure that there's clear and accountable exceptions, such as our Dillman Road Bridge, for instance. Also, perhaps even influencing the actions of LPAs within our metropolitan planning area. We'll also be looking at possible design, land use and context sensitivity, performance measures and project selection criteria, and the implementation steps of this policy, which really is the implementation of our current MPO plans, programs, and policies, which this body has already adopted. This is just to, I guess, notify the policy committee that the staff is starting way early this year in updating our policy just because of our new plans, and to make sure that this policy update starts in a very transparent manner, that if anyone has questions very early on in the stage of this update, we would like to hear them, of course. And what you should expect to see after this is more of a deep dive into each one of our plans, such as the MTP, Coordinated Human Services Transportation Plan, UPWP, and even some aspects of the crash report. And we will be listing out the priorities and planning aspects that this board has already agreed upon, and it's, I suppose, by plan, we'll be listing out how the Complete Streets policy should be updated based on the plans that are already approved and adopted. So with that, I'd like to take any initial questions.
Are there any questions? Yes, Jillian.
Very glad to hear about this. Thank you for the announcement and being the desire to be transparent about it. Can you say a little bit more about the timeline? What's the rollout? Is this a multi-year process or?
No, that's an excellent question. Our Unified Planning Work Program of 2023 and 2024 explicitly has planning emphasis areas dedicated for complete streets policy. So that means within the upcoming 2 fiscal years, our transportation improvement program amendments should be looked at more, I should say, more of with a complete streets policy mindset. Well, for the transportation improvement program application to be, I should say, newly conceived, which will be, it'll have to be based on the new complete streets policy. So we'll have to have a complete streets policy in place before a new transportation improvement program call for projects, which will be later this year, early next year. We're not 100% sure when we'll be asking for that yet. But that is several months down the line. But we want to make sure that we're proactive to have what we're hoping for in our projects based on our planning emphasis areas in our complete streets policy. I hope that answered the question.
So relatively soon.
Yes,
for
maybe within the next.
policy. Yeah.
Yes. So at the next policy committee meeting, we'll be bringing up the deep dive of our plans and how our plans could relate to our complete streets policy update. So that will be August. And then in September, based on that, and based on comments that we've gotten from the public at our MPO meetings, that will help us as staff to be able to draft an update to the complete streets policy, which will then occur in probably September and October. So yes, this is a long process, but we want to make sure that we have it right and with everyone's feedback with relation to our current plans.
Thank you.
Other questions? I guess I'll remind this body that we were the first MPO in the state with a complete streets policy, but it has not been updated, and has it been 10 years? How long has it been since we updated this last?
There have been minor updates. Well, let's see, there were minor updates in 2019, I believe, but the MPO first adopted this policy in 2008.
But it's been a while since we did a real deep dive into this policy, and
that is correct. So
we're
ours
overdue.
ours is very, I should say, the language in it is a little out of date, and just based on Smart Growth America, but also our own plans, which is the most important, because that's what we have, or like we as a planning area have agreed upon. So we're just updating it based on that.
And I guess I'll also remind members that we are challenged because we are city and county. Although it's the urbanized area, it gets a little dicey on the outskirts of town, even in town, where we don't have sidewalks because it's too narrow for even cars to pass through some of our streets. So there are challenges for all of us, and we'll do the very best we can, which is what we always will do, but we need to accommodate all users of our roadways. That's the bottom line.
Yes, thank you for that. And I should mention that Smart Growth America has additional, I should say, recommendations for metropolitan planning organizations, and that is new from the last time that our policy was updated. So we'll be looking further into that as well.
Are there any comments from our virtual visitors?
Yes, I see Ms. Clements.
Margaret?
Yes, I'd like to know exactly what are the multiple opportunities and avenues that the community can comment on these policies? And what dates? Do you have those established?
Sorry, just to repeat your question, because I'm not sure if I had fully understood it with the feedback in the room. Are you asking?
How might the public comment on these policies and the, the strategy that you have for updating the Complete Streets program?
Yes, great question. We will have several Citizens Advisory Committee meetings, technical advisory committee meetings, as well as policy committee meetings throughout the update of this policy, and we would welcome all comments and those from the entities around our Metropolitan Planning Organization to a comment. So we should have several opportunities for public comment as well as public and committee review of this policy.
To synthesize that, just to be clear, there are 3 avenues that the public may comment. One is through the Citizens Advisory Committee that is chaired by Sarah Ryderbrand. The second is through the policy or the Technical Advisory Committee. And the third is through this MPO body and through our meetings once a month on these Fridays. Is that correct? Are those the 3 avenues for the public to participate in shaping the policy that concerns their transportation?
That is correct. But I should note that we have had ample public comment through the development of our Metropolitan Transportation Plan, where we had over 500 people from the public comment on that, which is a document that will shape our Complete Streets policy, and as well as comments that we have received on our Transportation Improvement Program, our Unified Planning Work Program, and our Coordinated Human Services Transportation Plan. So because the Complete Streets policy is going to be shaped based on those plans, we already have a lot of public feedback going into this plan, even before the update starts.
And so those comments were received by how? I mean, are there committees that have been selected and chaired by city officials, or how exactly have those comments been gathered?
Sure. So we had a very robust public survey that went out to, or a very wide-ranging public survey that we received about 500 public comments on from around Monroe County. In addition to that, we've had some in-person meetings as well before the pandemic, and we had, I'm trying to think, at least a few years of other MPO meetings, I think totaling maybe about 80 or 90 meetings where we have received public comment that has gone into either our current Complete Streets policy, our Metropolitan Transportation Plan, our TIP, our UPWP, and so forth. So all of these comments are being looked at seriously and aggregated. So, or in order to create those plans that we already have. But in addition to that, we have several meetings that will be coming up later this summer and this fall that the public is absolutely willing to comment on, and we're gladly open to all feedback.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything else from any of the members of the committee? Yes, Jillian?
Yeah, one more question. Ryan, I appreciate the Complete Streets Policy Update rubric that's included in our packet, and I wonder if you can just tell us, what's the source of the information that's across in the columns, the updates that are needed? Did you guys create that? I understand that the left-hand column indicates the Smart Growth America recommendations, but how did you comprise or determine what should go across the top?
Sure. So are you talking about the MTP and the TIP and the UPWP?
Yeah, so kind of all of these components. Yeah, the
Sure.
components that are across the top column.
Yeah, that's a good question. These are our MPO's major transportation plans. And that's a good question because I didn't really dive into the initial analysis of the columns themselves. So for the Complete Streets policy as it currently is, our current policy here, we looked at the recommendations from Smart Growth America, such as like the vision and intent and ensuring that we prioritize diverse users, and we just looked at, does our Complete Streets policy reflect that? And then, as we can see, there's several places where it needs updating or needs major updating. And then also we did that with our other major plans, like our Metropolitan Transportation Plan. And based on each one of these, or based on Smart Growth America, or their recommendation for how a Complete Streets policy is organized, we looked at what our current plans say with regard to that. So, as you can see, there are several instances in our current plans that already mention several of these, I should say, priorities for how a good Complete Streets policy, or I should say a complete streets policy is organized.
Thanks. I noticed, as I was looking at this list, thinking about what is there and what isn't there, I wondered about other city components. Since I'm the representative from the Bloomington Plan Commission, I'm thinking about how often we bump into this and the complete streets issues when we're reviewing plans. The common concern is the sidewalks to nowhere that are being built, and that's all part. It always comes under. This is part of complete streets, and I'm noticing that on that top column that they're not necessarily a specific mention of a city document, and I'm just trying to think about that from the relationship. I think this is a really strong overview and an update that you're going to proceed with. So I just want to make sure we're really including everything as comprehensively as possible.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Thanks.
Anything else from any of the members of the committee? Seeing none.
Is Ms. Clements' hand still up?
Margaret, did you have something else?
No, I did not.
Okay, thank you.
I'll lower my hand.
Okay, and I assume that Julie Thomas has nothing to add to this. Seeing none, we will be seeing this policy multiple times in the coming months and have ample opportunity to review it. Obviously, if you have any thoughts when you are looking at it and comments, please address them to our staff, especially through an email, which is easy for them to track. That would be very helpful. Okay, so we're looking to the public, and I don't know that we have any public comment on matters that are not on our agenda.
I don't see any at this time.
So we'll turn to the committee members to see if there are any comments on items that are not on the agenda. Seeing none here, are there any virtually? Okay. Therefore, are there any issues for future agendas other than the one I raised of our having the local crash reports alongside the MPO's crash report on our August agenda? Anyone else have anything they want added to the agenda? Is there anything virtually? Okay. Excellent. So I will tell you that we will be meeting as a policy committee again, not until August the 12th. And once again, we will be in hybrid fashion. The CAC and the TAC are meeting a week later than usual on June the 29th. TAC will meet at 10 a.m. hybrid, and the CAC will meet hybrid at 6:30 on the 29th of June. And now I will certainly entertain a motion for adjournment.
I'll motion to adjourn.
Do I hear a second? Second. Excellent. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.